Okay, now we're talking about what's called composition, the rise above average. And the reason why I want to talk about this is not because I want everybody to learn about video techniques. I believe strongly that if we just use some of the minimum techniques like composition, decent lighting, how to do some decent editing without wasting our time and without it becoming perfect or fancy, that it'll help us in our marketing strategies. I'll say this like I have with the other modules is you can do great sales having horrible audio, composition and lighting, but you better have a really great marketing strategy in place. So I think many people are learning to have a good marketing strategy. And if you're going to learn that and learn how to have some decent video marketing at the same time, it'll just get you to grow faster. That's the experience I've had. If I used just marketing, it'd be different than if I used the marketing with the strength I have in video creation now. And when I look over the years, as I've been getting better with video, not just video marketing, but just with making videos, it's not that difficult to do what I've been teaching you with lighting so far. And it's the same with composition. Sounds like a fancy word, but let's get into it. What exactly is composition? It's arranging the elements in your video into an image or a scene in a way that is pleasing and it's easy to read. Read meaning the way you look at it, the way you comprehend it, right? And it sounds simple. I believe it is simple, but like everything else in this course, it takes some practice, but it's very much well worth it. Good composition will help you create more eye-catching, powerful, influential, exciting, and interesting content that will attract more prospects into your funnel, converting them into clients. I often think of this kind of technique, not just composition, but lighting and sound. It's like the product that we're selling, the product or the service. If we don't market ourselves with, as professionals, if we don't make what we're doing like we care and like we're wanting to attract attention and that we're giving something of quality to people with honesty and genuineness, then I think we're losing the audience that we could be getting. This doesn't mean perfection is what's important. It just means that we have shown that we really care. And like I talk about Jeffrey Sedowin a lot, the reason why he did so well with poor audio, poor lighting, poor sound, is because he really cared about what he was doing, but he also had a very, very good marketing system in place. It took him about 2 years to create the marketing system before he created that first not so great video. That's the difference. So if you don't have a really strong marketing system and you're just getting started, or you've found ways, even at this point, and we haven't even gotten to the strategy portion of creating an actual marketing funnel, just little bits of it so far, then this is very helpful. So we're going to cover the basics with composition. I want to keep it simple. I don't want to complicate things. I want us to be able to move ahead quickly and do things that are easy. So one thing we're going to cover is the rule of thirds, both in horizontal and vertical. And there really isn't anything on the internet that talks about vertical. So I invented it on my own, and you'll see it makes a difference. And we'll talk about eye contact, and you probably know this already, but there's a couple of tips I want to show you on how to create eye contact where, like I'm doing right now, looking into the camera, and how am I able to present, without looking away. So that's what we're going to talk about. All right, let's get into it. So what is the rule of thirds? The rule of thirds, according to the Studio Binder blog, and this is really the same as what many people say, it's an effective way to frame the elephants. It's an effective way to frame the elements in your screen so that the resulting image is more visually captivating. Like most other filmmaking rules, it's not really a rule. It's more of a golden guideline. And it's also an incredibly easy rule to try. Any photographer or cinematographer can use it, or in our case, video marketer can use it. Rule of thirds grid is a way to use composition methods that match with what's naturally pleasing to the eye. I'm literally doing it right now. I do it with almost all of my content. I very rarely am I out of the rule of thirds. It's become very natural to me. I'm not perfect at it. I'm not that concerned with it being perfect, but you're looking at it right now. And it creates conversation between the subject and the background, and it avoids distractions for the viewer, causing you to lose them as a potential prospect and customer. Now, like I've said before, it doesn't take things that are fancy like this to do, but what it takes is you thinking about the position of where you're in. Very rarely am I in the center and down like this, because many people, right, because when I'm looking at myself in my viewfinder on my camera to see where I'm at, but it's not uncommon for people to put themselves in the center of their video like this, right? Or like this. The positioning, bad positioning is what can cause distraction. So here I am, getting into good position. I'm just kidding. All right. The rule of 2/3. What is it? It's the process of dividing an image into thirds using 2 horizontal, 2 vertical lines. The imaginary grid yields 9 segments with 4 intersection points. When you position the most important elements of your image at these intersections, you provide a more natural image. So there I am with the cover slide from lighting and the cover slide from this one here. You'll notice this 1, 2, 3, 4 lines creating these third sections. If you saw The Queen's Gambit or any movie whatsoever, they use the rule of thirds with every single scene. So with the scene on the left, you notice both of these subjects are sitting with their heads just a little above the top line, but it's not like very, very high. And if it was too low, it would, it puts them in a very comfortable place for us to watch, and we're not distracted by displacement of them. The one on the right with the guy on the phone there, he's off to the right. His eye line is also close to that upper piece, or that upper line. And then the chest set's on the bottom, and he's got this drawer and stuff and the phone on the left-hand side. So it's not empty. And he's also got that big brown color on the left-hand side of the screen. On the bottom left, we have the Queen's Gambit there, the gal, I forget what her name is. It's an interesting shot because it's a reflection from her from behind. So the camera's behind her, so you see her head on the left and you see her image on the right and her eyes in alignment with that line. Your eyes don't always have to be in that place. It's all very general. And the one on the far right, on the bottom right, you can see there's two full body scenes, or 3/4 of their bodies, with their heads at the rule of thirds line on the top there. So here's some clips from my own stuff, and also with Tammy During. We've been working together for a while, and when I first started talking to her about the rule of thirds, I was like, "Oh, Tammy, here's what we need to do." So I took a bunch of her clips that she sent to me, because I was telling her, "Oh, improve your lighting this way, improve your positioning that way." And she did it every single time. Then I thought, "Oh my gosh, I need to talk to her about the rule of thirds." And I had rarely done that with people, and it really has made a difference for her. And so I only have one of the bad ones here, but the way she makes her videos now, she does them very well, and she has just got great alignment. So you'll see all the different examples I have surrounding her, where I have either full body, or I'm like on the very top left, I'm extreme on the extreme far left, but there's there's a big yellow graphic on the right. You don't know what it is. Actually, it's a banana if you saw the whole thing. But it doesn't, if it was completely white, it wouldn't look very well. So there's a balance in this scene. The one right underneath that, where I'm standing there at dead center in the middle, well, usually I'm not in the middle unless there is the background is not distracting, and as long as my head is not like too high, and if it's not too low. So it looks just right. The one where I'm sitting on the stool, which has a nice background, it's got the air on the left. It's got a light in the background that's actually, it looks like it's shining on my blackout curtains, but it's not. There's literally another light behind that's shining on the curtains. But you don't even think about that, do you? I'm sure I don't. I'm like, oh, how did I do that? And so I want to show my curtains to have some subtle lighting in the background, and then I have the light just that's also right by my head. And then again, there's also, we're talking about lighting again, there's blue lighting behind me. But my body is taking part in the intersection of these thirds of lines, right? So I'm not sitting in the center, I'm not too low, I'm not too high. It just helps you measure where you are in the image. So we've seen the one where I'm beside Tammy. We have already looked at that one. I'm dead center, which is great. But the nice thing is I've got imagery on the sides of me that doesn't distract you, and it's very well taken. And same with the one underneath that. Again, I have good background, and it doesn't have to be like I say, studio office lighting background. You could be outside somewhere. It could be a tree on your left, and it could be something else on your right. It doesn't matter. But my eyes are very close in this case to that line. So that's really the basics of the rule of thirds, which I just recommend. Don't lose time. Don't make this complicated. Just think about, oh yeah, I need to think about where I'm at. The biggest mistake I see people make is that they're either they're either too low on their screen, or they're always dead center. So it's okay to be off to one side. And the most important part is that you're looking directly into the lens, like I am now. And so these are just some ideas. They prevent your audience from being distracted from you, and it just gives you a little bit more of a professional flavor to how you're putting yourself out there. So let's look at vertical. So I made this up. It's the way I believe it's the exact same concept as horizontal. You can see on all three of them, my eyes are aligned with the top line, and it doesn't make my head could be higher. It depends. The one in the center is where my body is not even involved. It's pretty much my head. And instead of my head being dead center in this frame, my eyes are in alignment with that line, right? Which makes a big difference. It's just easier to watch. And so if you don't have your head full in screen, and the best way really to do a vertical frame is when your body takes up the majority of the screen with your eyes at that line of 2/3. I also have my camera up a little bit, so I'm looking up at it, not looking straight into it, because when you're straight into it, kind of like I am right now with this camera, and when you're on your phone doing vertical, it just gives you a better look. Again, that's just a personal thing on my side. I don't know. The last thing I want to talk about is just eye contact. I mentioned it a little bit already. No matter whether you're using a DSLR camera like I am now or your phone, look at the camera lens. When you're using your phone, this is my phone here, and if I'm filming myself in my phone, whether I'm doing it vertical or horizontal, the lens is right here, right? So when I'm actually filming myself, so this is what I do. So if I'm filming myself, what I do is I typically point my finger like this. I point my finger to where the camera is. So the camera is, it's right there. It's right where my finger is, right there. So that means I know exactly where to look. And it's a little difficult because just like on my camera here, my DSLR, I've got myself on the viewfinder. It's easy to look at my viewfinder, but it's just like a phone. It's just not a good way to look at yourself. So you want to be looking directly at yourself like this. It just makes a big difference. And the other tip I want to tell you is if you have content that you need to read. So what I do is I have my laptop, or in this case, it's my screen. It's literally just right behind me here. So if I want to read off of it, I can go ahead and read off of it, and then just turn and put the slide as an overlay to my voice, like it is, like you hear right now. And then I make sure I'm looking directly back at the camera when the lens or when the slide goes down, and it just looks natural the way I'm presenting it. That's one way that really helps. What I don't recommend is having something down here that you're reading, right? Which is just not good. You want to be looking directly at the camera, and it's good to have slides or anything that you have where you're speaking over top of something. It also gives your video some variety and some content, and that will help. The great thing is when you're using a video outline, that helps tremendously because you have in point form your key points that you want to make through a short video. But when you're teaching like this, you want to have content there that people can, where they're not just listening to your voice, but they see a presentation as well. And that's how I do it. And that's how it makes it clean, and it makes it easier for them to follow because I am reading it and no one gets, I'm speaking naturally as well. I don't want to sound like I'm reading something. So you try to speak naturally, and these things will help. So in this module, I just want to say, remember, rule of thirds is subtle, but it's extremely powerful. Like everything else, it takes some practice. The good news is it's not that hard. Looking directly in the camera is also very powerful, and it's all done with your phone. You don't have to have a DSLR camera like I'm using now. And with the picture on this last slide, you'll see I've completely blown away the rule of thirds. It doesn't apply everywhere. It's just me standing at the bottom of a painting on in Portland, Oregon, and it looks pretty cool. So that is simple, basic composition that will probably help.